particular temple, the priests were interested in giving the origins of race and explaining just exactly what races were. It just come out of my mouth. What races were. Now, who am I going to believe? Who is the author of education, intellectualism, spirituality on the earth plane? Is it the Africans or the ancient black man and black woman, not only in the Nile Valley, but this entire earth, because black people, we lived all over the earth, because before continental drift, this was all one landmass. So when we talk about the ancient priesthood, who had 360 degrees, who am I going to believe? Somebody with the white man's PhD to come up with a theory, or am I going to believe the people who had 360 degrees, which the beast has never been able to get to that particular point? Now, who am I going to believe? Am I going to believe the priest, or am I going to believe somebody because they figured they was intellectual enough to give some doggone theory? I'm going to believe the priest. Now, in the temple of Seti I that was put on the walls by the priests, you have 4 races of men. The Nezi, which was the blue, black, South African, and West African. The Himmu, which was a mulatto, but a mulatto in those days was not a white man or Semitic. A mulatto would look about like me, you see, up against a blue, black brother. Those were your Semitic types. Semite, that's the real origin of the Semitic type. The Himmu, they can go, even some of them had blue eyes and their hair in a bag and still had melanin. Explain this mute thing to you. The Himmu, the Ruti, which was your East African black, your Kimite or your Egyptian, and your Nile Valley in Ethiopian is the Ruti. Then you had a person called the Tamahu. Tama meaning created, and Hu meaning white, light, and bright. The Tamahu meaning the created white people. On the temple walls it says that the Nezi, which is your West African and South African, and your Ruti, who is your East African, are the most ancient of men. And it says that they both created the Tamahu. It's on the temple walls. Man with a 4th grade education told you that. You laughed at it, but this is on the temple walls in ancient Kemet. They created the Tamahu. Now, the prototype of Satan that you know of comes from the Nile Valley as Set Typhon. The first Satan, but there's 2 Set Typhons. Got to remember this. There's the first primordial god of all time, which is the blue-black god Sut. That means Sut, where your word smut comes from. And then there's the red-headed Egyptian Judas, which is a mutant that tore out his mother's side, and is the vomit, is the second one, which is the prototype of the origin of Satan. Now, document. You can get the Tamahu story in, part of the Tamahu story in Sheikh Anta Diop's book, African Origins, Myth of Reality. Look it up based on Champolion's findings. When Champollion translated the Rosetta Stone and went into Kemet, after I think it's 1832 or something, 1832 or 1833, went to Kemet and wrote back to his older brother telling him what he had found, and he was disappointed on the savage person, savage people he had found his race to be on the temple walls. Those vast reliefs of Biblium El Manuk, look it up in the actual Sheikh Anta Diop's book. But also, Gerald Massey's work, Ancient Egypt, Light of the World, Volume 1, page 27, it goes into the actual breakdown of this that Sheikh Anta Diop, I married to the European, didn't want to deal with so much of the created thing. But Gerald Massey broke it on down and dealt with that. So that's a document. The next document is the Hieratic Papyrus of the British Museum that you will never feast your eyes on, but don't worry about it because I got a book coming out. I have a book that's out. I just sold out in the other cities called The Human Artificials. And in that book, because number one, let me tell you, I just got back from Harlem last night because I had a speech in Harlem and I had to come straight here. I had to rush from there and go and do this radio interview. And I'll be in Jackson, Tennessee next week, to Jacksonville, Florida. I was in Jackson, Tennessee last week for a whole month. That's where the Indian Mounds is, which I'm going to get into earlier on what some things that went on. And we made contact with the ships. So we got our own ships now. So we got the juice. So ain't no sense y'all buck dancing for the cracker no more. Why? They ain't taking nobody who compromised, they ain't taking nobody who buck danced, and they ain't taking nobody who's scared. Time to stand up. We'll get into that later on. Now, in the Heretic Papyrus of the British Museum, translated in 1935 by Adam H. Gardner, that is not for the public to view, but which was printed in a series of works, some research works that went to major universities, never was printed to the public, but printed in research scholarly work that went to major universities, mainly white universities, in 1967, based on the papyrus coming out of Kemet that they had in Russia, the Louvre in Paris, and also the British Museum, and different museums throughout London and throughout Europe. In this compilement, in some works on Set Typhon, the god of confusion, they let the cat out of the bag, dealing with the Heretic Papyrus of the British Museum on the findings that was translated by Adam H. Gardner on who is this particular Satan, or this Set Typhon, this particular devil. And the Heretic Papyrus, well, number one, let's get into this. Number one, they were so gracious enough to send one of the books to ITC, the Interdenominational Seminary in Atlanta, which is the seminary for the preachers, them cornbread eaters, or whatever you want to call them in the whole 9 yards, or some of them. If you for liberation, then fine. But if you fooling the people and all, you know what I'm saying, singing Negro spirituals and just hollering all doggone day, and you know who you are too. But they was gracious enough to send a book to ITC in 1973, and from 1973 to 1992, they sat on the book for 11 years and didn't even know what they had. But they knew that white people, black people was waking up around 92. And so what they did is they came back in, and the beast went and stole the book. I went and stole the book from the beast. And I have a book called The Human Artificial that I have the actual documents in it with the Heretic Papyrus of the British Museum that states, Set Typhon, when we talk about this primordial Satan that the word Shaitan comes from in Samaria, and Satan comes from, we now know that it wouldn't be a surprise that we find the miserable barbarians or the miserable Asiatics in this corrupt passage. Now, they're not talking about the Asia, because Asia is a big place. They're talking about a particular part of Asia, because there was no Europe at that time. It was a form of Asia, but they described that particular part of Europe where they said they lived in a miserable part of the world. The water supply is wretched. The mountains make it hard for communication, so they are always grumbling. They are murderous and quarrelsome and have a restless nature. These have a restless nature. It came to the point where they say whoever have it is the real Jew. Well, we know that these people got it, and who got it? Some black people got it. That already lets you know that the real people got it. Because the people that they took it from. Why could Millet go in and take it from? If he takes it from the particular Hebrews who came out of Egypt, or came that was in the particular Jerusalem or wherever, Israel at that time, he takes it. That means he was of the original bloodline. He just went and got it from his cousins. So those people that's there now, even the Semitic type, are not the original ones. Even with these Semitic Arabians, this white man thing ain't the original Arabian. Because they got 85% blue-black people that live in Arabia right now. We don't even see. Check? Now, they go in. Y'all all right? Everything going good? Yeah. Okay, I just want to know. I don't want to avoid it. He goes and he takes it back and remains there to this day. All right. They say, whoever has it cannot be defeated. Well, Ethiopia was the only country in Africa that was never defeated. The one around the Horn of Africa. Because one time Ethiopia was vast, greater, and it was encompassing Kemet. When we talk about the nation, the part that's broken down to that little part in the Horn of Africa was never defeated. Right? Okay, now it's getting funky. All right. They start going in and start courting him in 1985 and even in the 70s, trying to get this Ark of the Covenant. This particular Israelis. Now they never, like Dr. Ben said, they never claimed us as being no. They didn't want to give us no, call us the real Jews. But all of a sudden now they're coming and talking about we brothers. So they want it. So by 1985, they start a famine, because they can do this. Get them on the uproar, get this whole thing, because they want it. Elders, some of them, say, we want all the covenant. They say, well, you're going to have to die, because we have to die with it, because we ain't going to give it up. Then they start a war by the CIA intelligence agency. It's real simple how they do it. They start a war, and they say how to do this. If the leader of Africa is a brother that's standing up for his right, then the CIA funds the radical organization to overthrow him.
That's right.
The guerrillas. If the guerrillas are radical and want to get down the revolution, then he funds the leader to overthrow them. That's how it goes. That's called destabilization. Used to be a good book out, and I think it's still printed, but it's hard to get. Used to call Covert Action. And the Word Report used to be a good book. A magazine come out monthly. And that was destabilization. So they destabilized Ethiopia and started the war in 91. Started courting them again, talking about Operation Moses. They're going to pick up their brothers. Now, you know, they ain't interested in no black people. It's the real Jew and they ain't the real one. They want to keep that secret. Right?
Right.
They keeping the Jesus thing a secret to this day. Now they even got, by the way, they done took him out being hair of brass, of wool and this and stuff. Now they saying hair. I seen one that say blonde hair. Sure it did. Done changed it up. And some of they take it out completely. So now Operation Moses comes in, they're going to lift them up again. Couldn't get it. Okay, they kept on courting and kept on courting and kept on courting until this is what happened. Number one, there was a woman named Corbin. I gotta get the book. I know it's Corbin. She's from Canada. You might be able to get the book faster. Talking about the Rastafarians and the Ark of the Covenant. And she said when the Rastafarians, when she said, hey, Mr. Lottie, that lineage or whatever, King of Kings, Lord of Lords, when they give that Ark of the Covenant up, that starts World War III. Okay? That starts World War III. All right. In January, I come in on TV. I come in on a Sunday night, came in the house, and my roommate said, they talking about something about the Ark of the Covenant. So you better turn it on. They got 15 imposter Jews sitting around the table rejoicing, say they got the Ark of the Covenant. I said, I know y'all gonna well that these doggone Negroes didn't change it over. But if you don't know who the enemy is, you see what I'm saying? You'll do all kinds of things. Convince them to say it needs to be back in Israel in these trying times. I say, well, that might not be true. Okay. You got it right, man? Oh, you got yours rolling?
Yes, it's rolling.
Okay. They say that they got it and it might not be authentic. I said, okay. I said, I got to find out. I said, I know they didn't give it up. So I called my spiritual sister. Melchizedek comes in through her. Or Ahaz comes in through her. And that's what happened. He takes her over. Takes her body over and talks to him. He came in right away and said, yeah, they got it. They got it about, he said that they turned it over to them about the last month, last week in January. They said it was an unholy alliance. And they said, it's an unholy alliance. And I said, well, if it's going to start World War III, they said, you doggone right it's going to start World War III. I said, well, what's going to happen? And they said, well, don't worry. They said that was just like giving them the nuclear bomb. He said, because they are not of the bloodline, and they are, it's an unholy alliance, because they tricked them into giving it to them. He said, because they're not of the bloodline, he said, what you know as the government of Israel and all of them, South Africa and America too, because all hooked up in that pocket. He said, all that thing, he said, what you know of that will be destroyed totally because of that Ark of the Covenant. As soon as they start tampering with it. He said, and they start coming, they was running tests on it that Monday. I said, well, man, shoot. I said, dang, man, come on, man, can we get that Ark in? I said, can we get it? He said, no, we're going to destroy that because that's a physical thing. What we want you to do is make a covenant among yourself, and the power of the covenant among yourself will be 3 times greater than the covenant in the Ark. I said, okay, that's cool. Okay. They said, but they're going to be destroyed. They said, because they let them trick them into doing it, they said that the doggone Ethiopians going to have to pay a price too. Because that's also telling you that anybody selling out at this time, when that Uncle Tom stuff, y'all through. Anybody in here an agent? I'm telling you straight up. When I'm telling you that if you agent, I'm telling you straight up. Because the juice ain't coming from some spook god that you think is coming out of the sky. The extraterrestrial government is already here. So if you're an agent, you best believe. I'll put it this way. I got some juice. You see what I'm saying? So hey, you're an agent, don't be selling out. And we'll get into that in a few minutes. Now, let's go on. So now, it's going to be destroyed, and they're going to have to destroy that whole thing, and that's the deal on this particular Ark of the Covenant. And it's already started because they start having the Jews getting killed in New York on March the 1st, and that whole thing with the other people that start all this. And this 28th cycle starts World War III. The 28th cycle, when it ends up, World War III starts. That 28th cycle ends up April the 23rd, 1994. When Sirius B completes the orbit around Sirius A every 60 years, which is today. What time is going on, okay? Moving right along. You can't get any greater signs on what's going on in your streets. People be still looking for some signs. Because you following the Bible to the T, but you got the time dates off. You are right in the middle of the revelation right now. Okay? Now, the interplanetary brotherhood that we're talking about is called Knights of the Solar Cross, and a book that you need to get. I always tell people to get that book, Other Tongues of the Flesh by George Hunt Williamson, which is George Hunt Williamson, which came out in 1954, where he was saying America. Other Tongues of the Flesh, George Hunt Williamson. Where it comes out in 1954, he was talking about America being the most evil planet on earth. Also, in the whole 9 yards. It says, people on earth are afraid that suddenly, if other people from other worlds are making themselves known to them, they will have to face a awful retribution for their horrible crime that's done against humanity, and the Creator's laws will not go unpunished. Now, they ain't talking about us. We know who they're talking about, and we know who he's talking about. We didn't do that kind of crimes against humanity. And if we did it in some other cycles, God knows we paid for it already now. So now we're talking about in this cycle, we know who they're talking about. It says that they are called the Great White Brotherhood, the Black Rod of Osiris, or the Knights of the Solar Cross. Now you got brothers and sisters, you got 7 planets around Sirius. Also, brother, I told you it was the Golden Dawn Tarot book. You can get that, but also there's a Golden Dawn ritual book, the complete rituals of the Golden Dawn, where they document that in there too, by Israel Regarding. Big thick book for $19, all the rituals in it. Now, it says 7 planets around Sirius. Now this is the key. If you know astronomy or astrology, you got a planet or you got a star, and each star has a certain amount of planets around it. A star is a sun, right? Our sun is, our earth stands in relationship to the sun. Our earth is like this to a big old sun. But our sun falls into insignificance to a greater sun behind it. Just as the moon is the reflection of the sun, our sun is a reflection of a greater sun, which is Sirius, who is the Lord of Sirius in your Holy Quran as that star that's on that flag. Okay? Which is Sirius, which is a greater sun, the central sun to the universe. Now, if this is the central sun to the universe, and there are other life forms in the universe, just the black man and being the most superior. So when I heard that from Muhammad, I said, now you done gone fool now. Big old universe and we the most superior. Okay. Well then we look at this. central sun to our universe, and you got other suns, and you have other life force, what do you think about the planets that's around the central sun and the life on it? That means that if this is the central sun and it's got planets and life around it, then those people don't have just a regular sun. They got the central sun. The sun behind the sun. That means they got to be superior, to be selected, to be on that. And guess who live on that planet? Brothers and sisters like you and I. Every God that you know of that came in your existence came from that. Okay? But there are other life forces. But one thing they have in common. They all have, the Knights of the Solar Cross have a highly developed pineal body or gland or third eye, which gives them astonishing telepathic abilities to examine everything by this eye instead of the normal vision, would only allow reason and logic instead of truth. That's why, don't take what I say and reason and logic, but go into it with the spirit. And the spirit says it ain't right, then throw it away. Because all these books and stuff, it's got to break down one way, but you're going to have to go inside with the spirit. Take nothing that I come and bring you. You don't take nothing no person come and bring me without researching it, number one. But if the research breaks down, you got to know what sounds spiritually right to you. That's beyond religion. It's man-made. They say that's a religion, but we are the nature. Well, what is your nature? Well, go into the spirit, which is your nature, which is the nature of God, and you cannot go wrong. You see, you got two angels on you. You got the good angel, and you got the bad angel. The good says to the right. And that's when you make a decision. They say you're always supposed to go with your first decision. Because that second one will lead you wrong. Because the one on there, so the first one tell you the first time, you know it's logical, you know the thing sound right, but you got the doggone intellectualize and go the wrong way. Always go with the first one. That's how you get out of this foolishness. But it says that the other ones, even the little green people they talk about, all of them have a highly functional pineal gland, even those. But the one that is the actual king is man. And that man, we know the original prototype of that man is the black man and black woman. When I say man, I mean, we know the woman is superior, because when that fetus comes in, and when that baby first develops, until that with that last one or something, it's a female. And then that clitoris elongates and grows into a penis. Well, one brother say, brother, you're talking above yourself. Because I say, brother, name something in the universe that creates that's not feminine. He said, well, name something in the universe that creates that doesn't have the masculine. I say, the black woman. Come on. Because the black woman in Tibet and other places, your sperm is solar-phatic energy. That's what it is. The solar-phatic energy that's going into a liquid form to seed. But that same solar-phatic energy, the woman in Tibet and other places can hold her vagina up to the sun a certain way and can get pregnant by the sun and don't even need the man. Don't even need the man. So now, I humbly submit now. And that's some deep stuff. Now don't say, well, the messenger didn't say it, because you don't know all what the messenger said, because you wasn't ready for that. And you may never know, it's your word against mine, and you may never know until you get to that certain level, but this is actual fact, based on the Tibet and based on the women, because also, if you go back to the first primordial mama, she had no consort. She's by herself, and then she has this child. Same thing. So we know who the superior one is. You know what I'm saying? And the black woman being the most one too. She the one that can cuss you out in a few minutes and go, want something to eat? You got a masculine and a feminine principle. But when you study the mysteries of the goddess, you'll find out that the masculine principle is the aggressive half of the feminine principle. There's only the feminine principle, and there's only a female universe. That which is masculine is the aggressive part of the feminine in the mystery. mistress of the goddess. This is the key. And y'all got to bear witness to this. Because when you get up there, you're going to find that the stuff is feminine. You know, man is nothing but a child. Man is not man now unless man is half woman. Woman is not woman now unless woman is half man. What do they mean by that? They mean not a homosexual. What they mean is this. When they tell you, brother, you got to humble yourself. You didn't hear that, brother? You got to humble yourself. You're too arrogant. That's that male aggressiveness that we have learned from the beast. We take on this nature. You got to humble yourself. What do they mean by that? Because the woman is humility. She's got to be humble. She's got to raise the child. And she's got to be there when the child mess up. And she don't get mad enough that she kill it. Mama love him anyway. So she's got the nature of the humility, and the nature of the woman is the true supreme nature of God. We're not talking about homosexuality. Now, when they say now woman is not woman, now this woman is half man, because some of us has become docile, but they ain't talking about the black woman, period. She got to be totally crazy when she shut down and let the man do everything. The black woman, that ain't never happened to y'all and stuff. You know. Just as you good as giving love, you good as taking that behind too. You know what I'm talking about too. Black woman, you still the embodiment of God on this planet. Because the whole sexist movement was started from looking at you and studying you. So you don't have to get into the sexist movement. They're only trying to copy you what they understood, because you were a matriarch of people up to this time.
That's right, brother.
You see, so that's what time it is when it comes to the scripture. Let's bear witness. Okay. Now, going back to this piece, y'all all right? Okay. So we're going to do some things, give you some more things. You can get my book, The Human Artificial, so we're going to have some up here, or you can get A.E. Powell's book, The Astrobody. Now, in the A.E. Powell's book, The Astrobody, they understood in the Theosophical Society that they were going to try to meet this deadline for 1914. What they had to do was find something about their true selves. C.W. Ledbetter, in a lecture to the Theosophical Society, gave the lecture and said, now this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to have to make improvements on who, what our real nature is. And we'll call astrocarps. See, Asia and carpus means dead. Caucasian means dead Asian. The astrocarp is a shade, is an entity which is not in any sense a real individual at all. Nevertheless, it bears its exact personal appearances, possesses its memory, and all its little idiosyncrasies. It may therefore be readily mistaken for him. It is not conscious of it. Now get this again. It says it bears his memory. They're talking about it bears your memory, because you're the real people. And all your little idiosyncrasies. It may be readily mistaken for you. Okay? But it's not you. It's borrowing the temporary intelligence from you. Okay? You got that? It may therefore be readily mistaken for him. It is not conscious of any act of interpretation. As far as its intellect goes, it must necessarily suppose itself to be an individual. It is nothing really merely but a soulless bundle of all the lowest qualities. As far as its life goes, it varies according to the amount of lower material matter that emanates it. So all this material stuff you got around here is what sustains it. Once it goes into the fourth dimension, by it being 98% material, it can't survive anymore, because in order to survive when the planet retakes its original form, you got to have something called a great work, which is melanin. Okay? Now the sun is producing the rays that's going to have you, so you can't even sleep this summer. But they're going to have to start working at night, and the kids going to have to start wearing coats because it's killing them off. Okay? All right. That emanates it. But it is readily fading out. It says leaving. Its intellect is diminishing. Though it may possess a certain deal of animal kindness, quite towards the end of its career, it is still able to borrow the temporary communication and able to communicate by borrowing the temporary intelligence from the medium, which is you. You got that? From its very nature, it is exceedingly liable to be swayed by all kinds of evil influences and being separated from the higher ego. The higher ego is melanin, the triple blackness of space, the dark night of the soul, which is dark, where you have to give up this old you and go into the new you, your higher self. It has nothing, it says, separation, it has nothing in its constitution capable of responding to the good ones. Check. A powerful astro body. Okay, now, let's do a little more thing. Now let's go on to some things and let's try to go into this particular UFO get down, okay? Now, let's see here. You know, boom. Okay. Now, okay. Here's the part I got. Now, the time is up. White boy started messing with time. He's messing with time now, he's doing things. But what he knows is one thing that's happening is this. This Empress Vertice, as well as the Sister Maya that I have gotten in touch with, and as well as this Thunder Dog that we unleashed, said 1995 it is all over. This is a thing that says that the prophecies from the indigenous people from the South Pacific. The year 1994, total balance and harmony on the earth. The enlightened ones will be here. You are the enlightened ones. You're coming closer and closer into your higher self. You exist on two realms. The more and more you come into consciousness, the more and more you give up all this old niggerized stuff. Okay? 1995, a new dimensional fourth dimension, a new race of fourth dimensional humans will design a new reality. This is the spiritual compass. The star people will be acknowledged. The designs of the new human race will come from Sirius through lots of difficulties. That is you. And you are the spiritual Congress. Because your people are out there dying in the streets and you are up in here now listening to some stuff that you don't normally get. You see, you are those people, and now they're saying you got to take the responsibility to help your people and bring your people through. Okay? Now, one of the cycles that was going on was, they said April 8th, how you doing, sister? All right? Okay, all right. It said April 8th, 1994. And the sister right here, it's funny he said it because the sister was on the mound with me. And I'll tell you some things that went on since then too. Did you ever get into school? Or you heard anybody from anybody? We're going to go into this right now. Well, she can bear witness the stuff that I'm getting ready to tell you, and I'll fill you in on the rest. She can bear witness because this sister here, known as Sister Maya, and she came down from Detroit, her and the other, anybody else with you, came down and drove down and to get a reading, and they partook on the mounds on this festivity that we had. And I'm going into that right now. They said April 8th is a time, they said, no, excuse me, a time, April 1994, when Sirius B and Sirius A do their 50 or 60 year hero scandals, which is the date. But what I didn't realize, there was some other time cycles that Melchizedek gave us. It said that does this 50-year hero scandals. Such close time between the solar system, the Earth, Pluto, Neptune, and the Sirius star system occurs for once every 60 to every 90,000 years, giving some rarity to inkling, studying some inkling to a rarity of opportunity in the last 2 decades of the 20th century. Now, the last time this kind of power was on the Earth was 90,000 years ago. That was back the time of Atlantis and going on into Lemuria. And that time we were gods. So that's the kind of juice on here now, and now you understand why your consciousness is changing. So I toyed with this for an entire year. I said, I got to find out, because one of the sisters said, but there's another date that they're not telling you, you got to get it. And this sister was the sight. She wiped her hand. The other sister, Maya, they came through with her and said, the time is going to be April 8th, April 4th through the 8th, which we had to go to this mound in Mississippi, in Tennessee. We went there the first time and we did a ceremony. Me and this sister went and did this ceremony, and we saw this angelic host come out and raise up his hands like this, dressed all in white. The next week, we brought the whole crew back, about 20 of us. She came down that Saturday after the crew went back. One brother said that the Spirit told him, you got to stay, because something's going to happen on the 9th. On the night, we went on this mound, and there was a vortex. Now, what had happened was this. What was happening was there was a time door that was opening up in space. Okay? And this particular time door, and remind y'all I'll go into some time travel in a few minutes. This particular time door that was opening up in space, this particular cosmic juice was coming through. The last time it was on the planet was 90,000 years ago. So, on the 9th, it was at its fullest perfection, the 8th, 9th, and 10th. Even though it was April 4th through the 8th, April 8th, 9th, and 10th, it had the full current. One of the brothers on the mountain said, he said, tomorrow you're going to get what you came here for. But he had to go back to Atlanta, because it's like six hours from Atlanta, this place in Jackson, Tennessee. And it's this mound, it's the biggest mound, and mounds are actually pyramids that the actual people built, burial sites. They say Native Americans or Native Westerners, but they say can go all the way back to the actual blue-black people that used to live here. But they built these mounds, so now they got 12 of them there. Now we got on mound number 10. On the 9th, we found this vortex was a hole, and I took the book of law, which is the same book that was given to the white boys by Awas. But the 3rd chapter of the book is talking about Ra Heru Kahudi that will rise up in the last days, which the book of Revelation is talking about. They took the teachings of Jesus, the teachings of Ra Heru Kahudi that predate the historical Jesus, 10,000 years on paper, and another 600,000 years in the written word. The book of Revelation is talking about him. Armageddon is talking about Harumageddon, or Harmageddon is talking about the original Christ figure, which the 3rd chapter of this book is talking about. It will rise up in this day. So I took the book and put it in the vortex. You remember that? I put the red book in the vortex. You remember that? I put the book in the vortex. Now the next day we had a group of people, about 13 people. One of the brothers that was going back to Atlanta said he had to stay. He told his wife, they were getting ready to go. He said, I gotta stay. He said, I gotta stay. And he said, I gotta go back tomorrow. She said, well, we gotta go back tomorrow. When we got on the mound, they were already out there. Okay. At this particular time, we went through this little ritual, and this particular angelic host that was there the week before that we saw. We got 2 sisters now that can see. They psychics. And they correspond totally together. We sitting around there, and this particular person, Thunderdog, comes in. I think he came in on a white horse. When he came in, and they say his name is Thunderdog, he's an angelic spirit in the whole 9 yards. And they said, one of you know him, and one of you got some maps that he's going to give you, and this other brother that didn't even know, he took a bolt of lightning and hit him in the head. He said, and he opened up like the other 2 sisters, and now he's a psychic in a few seconds. Now, it gets even funky because they started corresponding verbatim to each other. The other sister saying, what is he? What do you see? He said his name is Thunderdog. Now, I come to find out later on that Thunderdog was the Native American counterpart or the Native American part to the god Heru or Horus, which is the original Christ figure. He is the Native American counterpart that touched down as God and lived among the Native Americans. Because one sister said, I'm getting it as an ancestor spirit. One sister said, I'm getting it as a God. But he had came in the human flesh because the gods always come in the human flesh. So he came down, gave this brother some maps, put him in the back trunk of his car, and they had some, and I'm glad they did because they told us some things we needed to do. Gave him these maps and put them in the trunk of his car. Said the ships is on them maps. Okay. And I found out something else this year. Now, they came to me and said, we appreciate all the good work you were doing in the whole 9 yards. We got to give you something. Something that I knew I had to go and I knew what they were going to give me. And when he told me what it was, I said, thank you, because I already knew I was supposed to receive it. What they gave me was this. Put it around my chest. Now what we had to do was, let me get ahead of myself. There were souls, now this is the key, how you got to listen to how slavery is going on and how you can't be buck dancing and selling out. Because your people that died for you in slavery, they just didn't die for you. They're still dead, and they're waiting for you to go and free their souls. I knew this because we understood that Glory Island, when many Jeffersons used to go back and then people start falling out and they would get these people, the souls would actually possess those women and they would go through the torture that the women were going through on Glory Island. Glory Island is the island off the coast of Africa that they used to hold the slaves before they shipped them out across the Pacific. And the women can start going in trance and they can go there right there and it happens every time. The reason why that's still happening because those souls didn't get proper burial when they died and they're trapped in another dimension, and they're trapped in limbo, and their souls cannot put to rest until we come and free them. Okay? Now, what happened is the reason why you back because you got proper burial. Now, they say we got some, Thunderdog said, I got some people that's trapped up under this vortex, and you got to free them. And they said they're still trapped. So they said you got to say the word wado, wado, which means welcome. And then you got to say the word hina, which means thank you at a certain time. But they said you got to free them. They said so we started going wado and we started grabbing them to pull them out. To pull them out of the vortex. Okay, we got them out, and there was one girl was watching the whole ceremony. They said one of her friends had been trapped up deep down in the vortex for so many years, and we had to pull her friend out. And as soon as we freed the friends, about 40-something Indians who had proper burial came. This was all in the spirit world. Two sisters going verbatim on what's going on in the other brother. They came out. Now, for the Nation of Islam that they told you about the spirit, is the energy. You want to get that right. You understand what I'm saying? But the energy is spirit. You understand what I'm saying? Some things they had to tell you they are spirits, but they had to get you off of the level of thinking on a spook level because you was caught in the Christian church and you thought everything was spooky. That's right. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the reason why they had to tell you that, but there is a spiritual world. Okay? But they had to get you to another level of thinking to let you believe in yourself as God, which you would never have done believing in a spook. You understand what I'm saying? But there's the spirit world. So as we got them out there, there's 40-something Indians came around the circle. They came around the actual circle. They said that they was glad, they was rejoicing, they had this old Indian woman. Now these, mind you, the depiction of them, I don't think you got it. There was some real dark-skinned people. Them Indians you see on TV ain't the real. That stuff there and all, you know how that is. Them white actors. They real black people. So now, they were real happy that we pulled them out, and so they came up to me and they said, you've been doing a good work with the lecturing and the whole lot. Keep up the good work. So they took this particular medallion. It is the sun and the wings, and it looked like this. You've seen them on all the temple walls. The sun and the wings, which is the black dot, or it is the sun, and it is also the wings. They put this around my chest in the astral realm. It's there now. They gave the brother the map, and on top of the map, they showed the ships in the circle, and on top of the ships is this particular wing. On top of the ships. Okay, they put it around us. I didn't know it, but I wake up about a week later, and my girlfriend says, dang man, your back got a big old green, something green on your back like a big old 45 record. I go in the thing and look real hard and I say it is. I called another sister from Jackson uptown, Makila, and said, I got something green on my back. She said, oh, I forgot to tell you. When they gave me that stuff, I was watching them that day. It burned a hole in your chest, and it had a burn a hole in your chest and went all the way through, and now it's coming out the back. And this is in the spirit world. And she said, once that disappears, it's going to form some type of marking, and some type of signal, or some type of sign on your back, seal or some kind of mark. And all right. Okay, I said, cool. Now, we get back to Atlanta. This is the rest of the story. This brother is now psychic, and Thunderdog is coming to him. So Thunderdog said, y'all got to meet tonight at 7 o'clock. So he called everybody, they met tonight at 7 o'clock. There was another brother you didn't meet named Bobby Hemmitt, who is a Yoruba priest. He does Yoruba yoga and all this in Atlanta. Because he's an expert in yoga, he was nimble enough. The ships came that Monday night. That was on the 10th. No, that was on the 9th, the 10th. That was on the 11th. The ships came, and the Mothership came. And he was able to go on board the Mothership. When he got on the mothership, he saw the Honorable Elijah Muhammad on the mothership. He saw him on the mothership. Now this is real. Now this is how stuff is going. You say, what does this got to do with Muslims? What does this got to do? I'm telling you straight up. I know some of y'all don't believe it, but I'm telling you straight up how real this stuff is. So he saw the Honorable Elijah Muhammad on the mothership. Then he saw these black people, and I said, what did they look like? He said, when he saw them, he couldn't see their eyes. He just knew they were black people. And they were standing around in the corner. He would walk around a little bit. They wouldn't let him go but so far. And then he left. Now there was another sister, real beautiful, dark sister. She left her body and went on there and saw the Honorable Elijah Muhammad also on the mothership. And now they're saying that they say to start rejoicing because they said we're right in the middle of this, and they said that in 1995 this stuff is all over. Now the Empress Bertha had the same type. The Empress Bertha, which is the sister that owned all the land, had the same type of vision. She said, all I know is I got to get my people on the land by 1995. Remember it says 1995, the spiritual congress will be here, and the new people will design a new reality will come to see. This stuff is beautiful. But you know, when you look at this stuff, and I've been talking this kind of stuff, we about to get out of this thing. These are things that people have been waiting since 1865, Emancipation Proclamation. You know what I'm saying? All our people making feet are right in the cutting edge of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? This is it. But like I said, we ain't gonna get it because we don't believe it until it come on that doggone TV. Some of y'all ain't gonna get into the white man say, guess what? They ready to kill us on the TV set. Which will never come on the damn, which will never come on the TV set.
Right.
The revolution will not be televised. Right? Okay, now. Empress Bertha said, and they said they got to keep people on the land on 1995. She said, why? She said, well, all I know is they just told me there was a cosmic ray coming from Sirius, which the old Blair bears witness to, that if you don't have melanin, it's going to kill you. She said she saw herself stepping over white people like this. That's right. And they're all over the ground dead. Okay? The other sister, the sister Maya, who was the other seer, said she saw the same thing. She said, well, can they be saved? Not talking they saved. She said, can America be saved? She said, it's too late. They said the grace period is over. Now, they told her the grace period was over in January. They said January. This 1994 was over. Then you know why the doggone Japanese was there hollering about it's over in 1994 when they were saying this in October 93. So she said that she had the same vision. She had a vision in 1985. Then in 1995, it was over. It was over. The Thunderdome told us that Monday, in 1995, this thing is over, which calculated with my stuff automatically too. First I said it was 1996, but now we got new calculations, and now it's 1995. Because 1994 is either the year 2004, or the year 2002, or the year 2000. It's somewhere in between that. But we know that it is the year 2000. We right in the middle of this. Because if you get this beast 25 years, you might well roll over and call yourself dead now for what he got coming out. Because when he cut out this money, this summer, you're going to be swinging like a monkey anyway. And it's coming, you see. Now, said that 1995, this particular thing is it. Now we know by this summer, they're going to have to start working at night. One of the sisters, I think it was there, Sister Tamakila, her mother teaches school. And she said she teaches elementary, junior high school, and they've already started giving them signs to put up in the classroom, telling the little white kids that they don't have melanin and they got to stay out of the sun. You know, in Australia, they already got them now wearing coats. And in Europe, they can't even go outside and play until after 3 o'clock.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Until after 3 o'clock. That is because the sun, which used to filter out rays, is now putting rays in. Now, you won't be able to sleep for 3 or 4 days because that melanin is kicking in on you, and that's more powerful than any crack you've ever smoked. and old age 800 ain't got nothing on it. You're talking about the ultra high. So now you won't be able to sleep for a couple of days, but the white people are going to be dying. Now the first thing they did was, every time you go take a AIDS test, they're going to say that you got HIV.
That's right.
Period.
Tell it, Bobby. Tell it.
Now, Check this out. Last week, they already locked, because they always do it to the white people first. Last week, they locked up a white man in Atlanta and got him under quarantine for having AIDS. All them doggone white faggots walking around in Atlanta with AIDS. They locked one up. But that's not meant for him. They locked him, they do it white first, they fool you with the smoke screen, just like they put a smoke screen in the homosexual, which was meant for black people in the first place. And so now, they're going to start locking you up for the AIDS thing, and that's one of the first forms of the concentration camp in the King Alpha plan, because they got to get that melanin out of you, and they can't get it from this synthetic melatonin that they're selling in the vitamin stores now. Because this synthetic stuff don't have memory, because you know they wrap up Ramesses' body, and 2,000 years later they go and take that memory cell out of his skin, and they can get his whole life history, and plus all the history he knew before him in that memory cell, in melanin. Because it's a cosmic memory bank. And it's not a sunstream. So they got to get the real deal, and so they say, well, we're going to die trying. That's what the Atlanta child murders was about.
That's right. That's right.
So now that's what the King Alpha plan is about, is dealing active with FEMA. And so they're hoping that they're going to start quarantining you with the dope. No, excuse me, with the AIDS, and also when they get rid of this money, they know you're going to act a doggone fool. You've been selling out your people for that book. So now, they got to do it, but the key to this whole thing is because they're starting to die, and this cosmic ray is coming through, and it's killing them, you see. But, the thing about it is, the ships are already here. They're all outside. Now, there's two kinds of ascensions. Some of the people who raise the chakra centers in the Kundalini and the whole 9 yards, you go into outer space on an alternative planet called Sanchez. You know, Nick Hitler say I was going to go out of space. It's right here on Earth. That mothership is right here on Earth. Well, it is right here on Earth. That one is going to take people to the crystal city in the subterranean world and up under the ground, where the most superior people live up under the ground now. That's why the white man tell you that hell is down there. The reason why he tell you that hell is down there, because he don't want you to know what's down there. Your people, where did the ancient Egyptians go? How can a whole race of people disappear off the face of the earth? You got the ancient Greeks still there. You got the Romans still there. You got the Ethiopian, all that. Where did they go? They went in the subterranean world. Because in 1985, I got the picture of it, they show the passage in the doggone subterranean world to go from Memphis, Egypt to Memphis, Tennessee.
Right.
You see. And in there, when you get up under there, it's no different looking than this. They got a sun and everything, and a whole other civilization. But the reason why you can't, they said, well, why the white man never went there? You know, the white man, if it's a place, he'll get there now. Why he never went there? The reason why he never went there was because it's on another dimension. And even your thoughts can't even penetrate that spiritual plane. So he can't get in there. You see. But it's the superior people in the ancient Egyptians and all of them live in the underworld. That's the underworld of the dimension of Osiris. You see what I'm saying? Which is the heaven. As above, so below. As up on top used to be heaven, which is now not. As on the bottom, which is still heaven. That's where they retreated to. They got something called a white city of the central sun. They said it is in the inner planes. And in the inner planes, they said to the white man, in John Stockwell's book, my 10 years in the CIA, my 25 years in the CIA, said when I was in Africa, all they wanted to do was try to search out these secret societies. He said that they couldn't get them, he said because it was underground. But what he didn't realize is the underground was a real literal underground in the inner planes, where the most superior people live. And they say they got a group of West Africans that's going to start influencing West Africans. But they're not talking about the West Africans on the continent. Because the Son of Man wasn't supposed to rise up. He's supposed to rise up here, in the West. So who are the West Africans in the West? You are. You see? Parts of you, because there's some of you who've been here before that. We want to get that straight. You see? But some of you came on the slave trade. Not all of you. This is new history that's coming. But they start influencing you by your thoughts. So now you are being influenced by your thoughts. And you have a higher self that you got to get in touch with. So some of you going this way and some of you going that way. They say the mothership that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad talks about, and he did say it in theology time, there's more than one mothership. His was half a mile by half a mile. They got one mothership that's 3 miles long. That means if it pulls up over here, you can't see 3 miles with the naked eye. That means the whole sky will be dark. And they can go 35,000 miles per hour cruising. You see, that's slowing down, taking a chill pill. That's going from New York to LA in 5 minutes. Cruising. Now, and you small planes that go on top of that. That's what happened to that first telescope that they put up in space. They said a mothership came and took it. And they keep breaking this other Hubble telescope. You see? Now we ain't got no money at all. But yet they're going to put up $1 billion telescope just to take some pictures of some stars. Y'all get real. You know what time it is. You see? And now they got laws on the book that they can lock you up for contacting aliens. Why you say that when you say there ain't none out there? But this is the kind of stuff that's going to, there's a whole other crystal city that's up under the earth. Honorable Muhammad say that theirs was built by the Chinese, the Japanese, in what, the 1930s? 20s. Okay. Gerald Manson states in his work, Ancient Egypt, Light of the World, that the Japanese got a myth, that they got an island off the coast of Japan that they say they know is there to this day, but they don't know where it is. Can't find it. And on that island, the Japanese, we now know are black people because the first original Japanese were black people. Remember, half the blood in your veins must run black to be a samurai warrior? And you know if you go anywhere in Asia, you can find them black people still over there. You see. Now, they say it still exists, and that's where it was built, but it was on another dimension, the reason why they couldn't see it. So the mothership is here, but it's on another dimension, because it can dematerialize and materialize. But let me tell you, the stuff is going down with these crackers. You know the people that's in, roll them people, they got 4 bodies in them, rolled in the operating room, and the gas came out, and the doctor fainted, and everybody fainted. What happens is this. Because the European does not have a genetic code that is a blueprint to some other place outside of the Earth, that link them to some of them planetary star systems, because they are mutant. They are free territory and experimentation to the universe. They got free run on them. They say you just can't mess with the black people. And every time black people have an abduction, which is very few. How is it everybody person got an abduction? When the last time you saw somebody being abducted? I might have 1 or 2, I might meet every 4 or 5 months to say that. And they say what happened? They say, well, they tried to heal me. And they tried to get me straight to heal me or give me some messages. But we talking about abduction. Why? Now everybody. We all the same. Well, why is the sun killing the people? Is everybody ain't killing you? Now common sense will tell you, I make a planet. I put a sun on the planet that is the vital force for everything on that planet. But something on the planet the sun gonna kill. Melanoma. And they say 2 things get melanoma. The white man and the pig. Both of them are unnatural. And that's why he needed the pig for his medicine. Because the medicine comes at your most important meal of the day, which is breakfast. And that's 98% poor. You see what I'm saying? And his society is 98% poor. Even in the sugar, I heard. Now, they're going to put him on there and the sun going to kill him. That lets you know right there he's unnatural. And don't let nobody fool you with that bull jive. He's unnatural or mutant. Now, if any of y'all in here is crying because you got white parents, don't be crying.